Now let's take a look at my absolute favorite Photoshop tool. Maybe it's because I'm a woman, but I believe that this lets me use my powers for good. So if I look on the toolbar, there is a very easy spot healing brush, a more technical healing brush tool. But once I discovered the patch tool, I found it did everything the above two did more easily and more quickly. So I'm going to start with the patch tool. I click and held down on the spot healing brush tool, or I right-click on the spot healing brush tool to dig to the nested patch tool underneath. This is a beautiful shot, but there are imperfections, and of course, no one could be printed in a magazine with imperfections. In fact, very few Facebook photos go up of me, unless they're directly from my phone, without a little bit of patching. I'm hitting Command plus or Control plus to zoom in, and you'll start to see some of the imperfections in the skin. Now, this isn't necessarily all due to the model or her skin. A lot of the imperfections are caused by digital cameras over-sharpening or giving too much detail. So every pore to me looks like a Grand Canyon, and every blemish or imperfection is far more obvious when you have the ability to zoom in like we do in Photoshop. So, with the patch tool, you could see she's got a small blemish up here. All you do is make a selection with the patch tool around the bad, get in the middle of it, click and drag to good skin, and it's wiped out. I'll do the same in other spots. And in fact, I think it was one of the Kardashians that says she has a mole on her face, and in everything she ever sees printed, they actually remove it, thinking it's a blemish or imperfection. That happens a lot with celebrities. Now, looking at the wrinkles under the eyes, this model is very young, but maybe we want her to look flawless. So the patch tool, as I'm making a selection, letting go, and dragging to solid skin, will simply blend that away. When I'm finished, I'll take a look at before and after, and there are more tools you can use to do cleanup. Stray hairs you can even grab, but you have to be very careful not to touch high contrast edges. I'll drag to solid skin, and they're blended away, like a free little eyebrow wax in retouching. Sometimes you pick up too much of a texture, so you can patch the same area over and over again until you're completely happy with it. And I won't go nuts, but try this on your own shots. I found even with my children, who are very tiny and I never thought would use or need beauty retouching, they do cry. They do get dark circles under their eyes, and if I want them to look brighter and happier, I might remove a little bit of the purplish tone that they get from crying. So there's your beginning beauty retouching, and after patching all the imperfect skin, the next thing I'm going to do is make the eyes more of a focal point. To let you know what keys I'm hitting, I'm using the spacebar key to give me the hand tool to move my screen around. I don't want to remove her adorable little dimples, but maybe I don't like the mole there. The patch tool works on dark circles under the eye, wrinkles on the forehead or crow's feet, or even if I zoom in with Command plus or Control plus and move around with spacebar, neck wrinkles, 5 o'clock shadow on men, even flash on sunglasses. The patch tool is just my absolute favorite and easiest repair tool. So I'd use the spacebar to move around quite a bit, and the second thing I want to do in beauty retouching is digital camera shots will often artificially darken the midtone. So will scanners. And when I say midtone, just to define my terminology, midtone is anything close to a middle gray, around a 50% color value. If you can picture 0% as white or no ink on paper, and 100% as black. Any shades that fall in between white and black, kind of in the middle, would be considered a midtone. So I've created a flawless forehead, no Botox needed. And now I'm going to go to the Dodge tool. The Dodge tool is a photography tool for lightning. On the Dodge tool, I'll make my brush size smaller, and I'm using on my keyboard my left bracket key or right bracket key. They are located next to the letter P on your keyboard. You can also use the menu way to dial this down. My goal with the Dodge tool is to make it about the size of the iris of the eye, the colored part of the eye. And I never dodge more than 20% or it looks artificial. Between 10 and 20% is perfect. So now I'm dodging, just sweeping around the pupil so you can see more of the beautiful blue in her eye. Again, I'll do that on the opposite eye. And I like to leave the edges dark. That's another trick from high-end magazine retouching. I missed a little there, so I'll just undo, Command-Z or Control-Z, and do zoom in, and I like to use my space bar to naturally move my screen around, or you can use your scroll bars. But the more you zoom in, the less tired you'll be at the end of the day. Also, as we age, our teeth and eye whites yellow. So brightening the eye whites not only makes the eyes more of the focal point of this shot, but it does make us look a little bit younger. It improves the contrast between the colored part of the eye, the iris, and the white, making the shot more compelling. Now I'm going to switch to the burn tool. And with the burn tool, again, I never use higher than 20%. Between 10 and 20 is ideal on both dodge and burn. In this case, I only want to burn the darkest areas, the shadows. I make my brush size about the size of the pupil. Perfect. So I'll click once or twice to darken the pupil, and now instead of using the dial, I'll just use the left bracket key on my keyboard to sweep around the edge of the eye. If you check yourself in a mirror, most people have a darker edge to their eye color. And this is at your own discretion, but this again improves the contrast between light and dark, making the eyes more the focal point of the image. The last thing I'm going to do with this is I don't love the eyeshadow color, so I think I will go in and dodge it to make it a little bit lighter or less severe. And after dodging the eyeshadow, if there's too much of a color you really don't like, you could also use desaturate. The sponge tool desaturates or sucks out color. In some of the model shots that I was given here at Video to Brain, they're wearing very bright pink and bright blues, which is great if you're into that 80s or 90s kind of look, but not so modern for today. So that's one of my favorite things to do, just rip out the bright, very loud colors on eyeshadows to make them more natural. Now finally, let's take a look at before and after. But the last thing I'll do before I do that is these beautiful tiny little eyelashes here. I'm going to click and hold and come back to the burn tool. I'm still on burning shadows, and I'm using my right bracket key on my keyboard to make my brush bigger. For women and babies, I tend to burn over the eyelashes because it really just makes them pop out of the photo. Now, let's appreciate where we've come to. In the history panel, I can stretch it and click the first snapshot, the original image I open. I'll zoom in so you could see this with Command+ or Control+. Here's before, imperfect, a real human being. Here's after, perfection, and a magazine shot. There is far more I could do to be safe while editing, and there's far more I can do to create flawless skin, but this video tutorial was designed just to get you started at some of the essential and very easy ways to do beauty retouching or anti-aging. Try this with your own images.